What's up, YouTube? I want to bring a video today and cover basically high quality optics, what I would consider duty quality optics for AR-15s. These are by no means the only optics out there as far as quality optics, but these are the ones that I run, and I'll bring you some in-depth information and some pros and cons of them, because there's always a trade-off with optics, whether it be magnified or unmagnified, veritable, whatever optic you pick, there's obviously advantages and then there's disadvantages, and you just basically got to choose what works for you. So basically I'll start with I'm going to cover 3 optics in this video, and I apologize if it runs a little long. There's kind of a lot of information to cover on them, so you kind of make an informed decision if you're looking for them. And if you're kind of a hobby grade guy, if you just like to go out and plink and have fun, your AR is just kind of a, I hate to downplay it, say a range toy, but these may be a little more than what you want to spend on something like that. But in the long run, I've learned you kind of buy once, cry once. Optics aren't really the spot to skimp. If you do make a quality purchase, that optic can last your lifetime. So basically, I wanted to start with is a aimpoint. This is an aimpoint comp M3, and this was the night vision compatible M3. The M2 was the real common version, which was the military CCO, or the was the M68, I think was the designation, CCO M68. Anyways, it was the M2. This is the M3, which is just the next model up. They now make an M4, which is a bigger model, which is now, I think, the common standard issue for the military. And it's nice because it takes a common battery. It's just a big optic. I had one, and to me it just seemed too large for what you're doing with it. Basically, you're just lighting up a dot. But it was a really robust optic. I mean, I don't think you could break that thing if you tried. These M2s, M3s, ML2, you'll see a ML reference, ML2, ML3. That just means a law enforcement version that's not night vision coated lenses. And basically they'll work with night vision. They're just not, if you run a PVS 14 behind them or something, the glass isn't coated the right way for them. They'll still work, but because they still have the night vision settings in them, the first 4 clicks or so you don't see with your naked eye. So if you get one, you turn it on, 2 or 3 clicks, and you're like, oh man, I think this thing's broke. It's just in the night vision setting. You don't actually start seeing it until about click number 4 or click number 5. You can start seeing it with your naked eye. But these are definitely daylight bright. You'll see that tossed around a lot. Daylight bright reticle. These you can almost, if you turn them all the way up, I mean, you'll get a big glare out of them because they're so bright. But I mean, you can almost look at the sun with these things and still be able to see the dot. I mean, they get really bright because that's all they have. They don't have any etched reticle. If the battery goes out, the optic's out. Another great thing about aimpoint is battery life. This particular one, the Comp M3, on setting like 7 out of 11, you run on 7, which is definitely visible during the day, everything, it'll last like 50,000 hours, which equates to somewhere between 4 and 5 years with a single battery. So with this particular amount I have on it, it's got a LaRue M68 with a cantilever mount, and it keeps a spare battery right here. So actually, the shelf life is about 10 years on these batteries now. So if I have one in here and one in here, I got 10 years worth of power on the gun. So I mean, and that's not turning it off. That's if you just leave it on. And really on these, you just leave them on because you'll wear out the rotator switch before you wear anything else out. So once it's on, I just leave them on. And like I said, I have a spare in here if it goes out, because this optic, if the battery's dead, it's done. You can't use it. But they are co-witness. You can see straight through them. So if for some reason this optic does go down, if your battery is out, you can flip up your backups and use it without doing anything to the sight. You don't have to pull it off in order to use your backups. Like I said, there's no magnification in here, so it doesn't distort the view from between your backup iron sights. It could be used just a flick of a backup there, and you're ready to go, and you shoot irons. So that is one advantage of them. They're fast. When you pull them out, you basically use them both eyes open, so you're going to be looking at your target, your threat, whatever you may be firing on. Basically, you're both eyes open. It comes up, and that dot will appear in your vision. And you don't look down at one eye like a scope, or magnified optic. You just shoot both eyes open. You bring it up, and there it is. Bang! That dot will appear almost like if a laser was mounted to the gun, shooting out, onto your target. That's kind of how it'll appear to your eyes. So it's really fast. That's the advantage of a red dot, is they're really fast to use, to work. They are nice because they're not magnified, and you can use a backup just with one flick. You don't have to pull the mount off. Optic won't have to come off if it goes down. Backups, will take care of that. So pros of this is battery life on an aimpoint, and pretty much all their newer models, all are 30,000 hours plus battery life. The T1s, the T2s, H1s, H2s, all that stuff lasts 30,000 plus. So advantages: fast, battery life, lasts a long time. Disadvantages are, or actually another advantage is, they're pretty much parallax free, which that means you don't have to have a distinct cheek weld, consistent cheek weld every time, like you would a magnified optic. If all you can do is see that, as long as you can see that dot, wherever that dot is, that's where the bullet's basically going to hit, depending on your zero. But I mean, I could shoot that gun like this fairly accurately. I mean, I'm going to hit wherever that dot is if I can keep this rifle still and squeeze the trigger. So that is another definite pro. Awkward shooting positions, whatever, there's no need to really sit there and get a perfect cheek weld every time. It's going to hit as long as you can see that red dot. Like I said, negatives: no magnification. It's hard to identify a target past 100, 150 yards. I've shot them out to 250 during a 3-gun course, 3-gun class, or not class, a 3-gun competition, and it was rough because I had a 4 MOA dot, which means it covers at 100 yards, it covers 4 inches, and that doubles every time you go out in the yardage. You add 4, so if you go 100, it's 4 inches, 200, it's 8 inches. We were shooting 250, so you're about a 10-inch dot is what it would cover at the yardage I was shooting at, and we're shooting at 8-inch discs. So basically the dot was bigger than the disc. So what I kind of do is kind of come up, see the edge of the disc, come down, see the top of the disc, and then kind of center, and then even at that point I had to actually adjust a little drop when I took a shot or two and didn't hit it, was shooting under it. Kind of had to just see the bottom of the plate I was shooting at the bottom of the red dot, to compensate for the drop. But it wasn't easy, to shoot 250. It wasn't an easy task. It wasn't just, put it on the target and squeeze the trigger. So long shots do get difficult. They're definitely doable, depending on your skill level. I mean, you guys can shoot a lot better than I can. They can shoot them out, 300 plus. But you also got to realize, if you're using it like a combat style optic, you also have to identify your target. So if you can't identify something, correctly, that you decided you want to take a shot at that, then obviously you can't take the shot. So even if you could probably hit whatever you're looking at, if you don't know what you're shooting at, but you know you can hit it from that distance, technically you can't shoot. So that's one disadvantage, like I said, is no magnification on the unit. But aimpoint, great optic. They do what they're supposed to do, and they do it really well. But just be aware of their limitations. I would say any of your current manufactured aimpoints are awesome. The Pro wasn't out when I bought this one, because I probably would have bought a Pro, because you definitely save a lot of money over buying. I don't even know if these are in production anymore, but these used to be about $550, and they didn't come with a mount, so you still had to buy a mount. These came just bare optic, and then you figure LaRue mount or any kind of nice mount starts about $100, and they go up from there. So you're $650 involved in one of these. Where Aimpoint Pro comes with a nice mount, that QRP2 or whatever, with the little torque screw on the side. Those are good mounts. They pretty much repeat 0 because it's got a torque limiter in the setup. So you get mount and optic for, I've seen them as low as $399, something like that when you catch them on a special. Here lately they seem to be, they're all about $429 or hang right around there. But still, for $429 you got to pay full kind of pop on. Excellent optic for what they do. Just know the limitations of them. But man, these things will last forever. They'll hold 0. I could probably throw it off my roof of my house and pick it up, and it would probably be right on the money. So definitely, they're military proven. This was the M68. The actual M2, the model before this, was the M68 till they went to the M4 model. And then the T1s were used in special forces, like in the SOTMOD programs and stuff like that. So they got a lot of wartime behind them, and they ran awesome. I mean, guys I know that came back that used them, had nothing but good things to say about them. EOTech's Same way, actually, most of the guys I talked to that had served and used the OTECs all liked them. Just here lately, they had that thermal shift and stuff like that, and battery life, isn't near as what you get out of an aimpoint. But the reticle is nice if you've ever shot an EOTech. I really, do like the reticles they use, with the big 65 MOA, big outer ring, and then 2 MOA center dot. But that's another way to go. I've just never ran the EOTech due to battery life. That was my main concern even before all the thermal shift stuff came out. And now that they've kind of did what they did, anybody I think that's going to kind of burn U.S. troops and the U.S. government as far as knowing there was a problem and then denying it and then getting sued and figuring out they did know it, kind of loses it with me as far as me spending my money with them. So not that I was really in the market for them before, so it doesn't, not like, oh, they lost my business over it, because I wasn't real too keen on their optics anyway, just due to battery life, but I wrote them off now. I personally won't run an EOTech, anyway after that. So moving on, that's no magnification. Moving on now to a Trijicon acog. Now this is a fixed 4-power. Fixed 4-power is a little different to shoot. It takes some getting used to. It's not as easy to just pick up and use like a like an aimpoint. There's some ways of using this thing that usually when you see someone that talks about they don't like an acog, it's usually they don't really get the concept of an acog, and not always. Some people just don't like them. If everybody liked them, that's all we buy is ACOGs, and there wouldn't be anything else out there. But generally, guys, I take out shooting or whatever that use it. I've tried it, and I'll explain to them how to use it and the bend-in aiming concept. Once they get the grasp of that, because it's kind of a learned thing, you're almost tricking your brain, and it takes a little bit to do that. Once they kind of learn that, and after they see the glass clarity, they're just blown away. And usually they're kind of a fan of it, and want to go out and get one of their own. But to cover an ACOG, this particular one's a fixed 4. They make a couple different models, make them down to 1.5, I think up to 6 fixed power, usually for the 308s and stuff like that. This is probably their most popular, or one of their most popular models. This was a TA31 RCO, which was the Marine Corps edition, or what the Marine Corps issues for the M4. And this has got the chevron, which is like a upside down V with the bullet drop reticle, and then this one also has the windage on the side, which designates it as the RCO. It came with a little kill flash honeycomb thing that I don't run on it or whatever. Just prefer it without it. These things are awesome. Once again, you're taking a short range or intermediate gun. 5.56 isn't, obviously if I was going to go shoot 1,000 yards, this wouldn't be the first thing I pick up. But this, with the optic change, it's like a force multiplier is what I've heard some people say. It takes a gun that can go from 0 to 100, 0 to 200, and you can really make reliable hits on this thing out to 450, 500. Even semi-decent shooters can make hits 400 yards on man-sized targets, 18-inch, 20-inch wide gongs or so. Because it's a combat optic, it's not a precision optic. So it's made to just get hits on, 18-inch wide targets out to, it's got drop reticles in here out to 600 yards. 600 yards is asking a lot for a 223, especially out of a 14.5 or 16-inch barrel. Can it be done? Yeah, it can. If you're a good shooter, you got good ammo, it can be done. Me personally, I'm more comfortable with about 400, 450 that I can make consistent hits and not have to worry about, not hitting that target. And how the binding aiming concept works, I believe his name was Glenn Binding. I hate if I'm slaughtering that last name if it's not pronounced that way, but he was the founder of Trijicon. And basically what his concept was is you're looking at a target, both eyes open, you're looking at it. When you come up, like right now, I can see that red chevron lit up in there from this fiber optic tube. It looks like a red dot. So if I'm constantly focusing on the target and I'm not looking through this optic, once I look through it, obviously you're going to pick up the magnification through your eye, and it's going to slow you down as far as finding something. But if I'm looking kind of almost up and over or beside the optic, and I bring that up and don't cover my field of view, don't get it right, into my face where I got to look through it, I can see that chevron from right here, and I'm still looking at the target with no magnification. So it basically just appears in your vision with both eyes open. So like I said, it takes a little getting used to. It takes some working with it. It just doesn't, happen, like that, because you'll get it a couple times and then you'll all of a sudden bring the optic up maybe a little too high or something, and then look through it, and then you look through the magnification. So once you learn that and you get the concept of that, this is a really fast optic in close. So now it's probably not as fast as an aimpoint, because like I said, that is no magnification, boom, no eye relief issues. It just comes up and you're going to hit wherever that dot is. This isn't too far behind it as far as speed, but now when you take it out and you're going to make a shot at 400 yards, well, now it's just like you're taking a shot at 100 yards, because this is a 4-time optic, so you cut that down by 4 times. So now you can ID a target at 400 yards. So you can tell if that's something you want to shoot at 400 yards. So that's where it's like a force multiplier. Like, you've heard people say that probably before. So now it takes this gun that, with a red dot is, 150, 200 yards, doable as far as hitting it, but IDing, is now based just solely on your vision. If you got good eyes, you can see a little farther than the guy that doesn't. But with this, you're bringing that target in closer, as far as to the magnification, and you can see, is that something I want to shoot at? So now, yeah, I do, no, I don't, whatever the case may be, but you can make that shot, so it's definitely a force multiplier. These things are heavy duty. These are basically like an aimpoint as far as durability. Same thing, I would trust throwing this off the roof of my house onto my lawn and picking it up and taking a shot at 100 yards, and I would almost guarantee this thing would be at 0. These things are bulletproof. They're same thing with the aim points. They're got a lot of combat time. They're war proven. These things have been in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they've been just, if you want to destroy something, like they say, just give it to a grunt, and those guys could destroy a 4x4 block of concrete, So obviously they're tough optics because that's what they're running. Like I said, I got a lot of buddies that are ex-vets and stuff, or vets, and they ones that did run the ACOGs have nothing but good things to say about them. Great optics. They hold 0. They're tough. The glass is just extremely clean. I mean, just super bright, super clean. You almost, once you get into like a variable optic, you almost have to spend double acog money to get that clean a glass in a variable optic. I mean, I just can't say enough about the glass. If you haven't looked through one, check them out. If you got a local shop somewhere or something around you that has one, you can pull out the case to look at. Just look through one. Man, the glass is amazing. Another thing, so the positives on this is A, it's magnified. B, it doesn't take any batteries. It's got tritium inside to light during low light situations, which last you about 12 to 15 years is what I think 12 years is the half-life. So it should glow strong for about 12 years. I sent one back not too long ago that I had bought used. It was old. The tube was all fogged up, stuff like that. Well, Trijicon will replace the prism, the whole guts of the unit with the tritium. You can actually have them change the reticle if you want to at that time. They can just put that prism in and give you a new tube and everything for about 188 bucks, I think it was. And it'll come back like brand new, as far as the tube goes, and the inners. They don't really change glass. They may if it needs it. I don't know. This one didn't need it, so I don't know, how good they look out for you there. But they do replace the whole guts, the whole prism assembly, which is the erector set, the tritium, the fiber optic tube, everything. So, I mean, that thing comes back in 110% working order for 188 bucks. So you figure, if you keep one for 12 years, 15 years, whatever, and your tritium's dark, 188 bucks, you can refresh that thing like you bought it yesterday. So, once again, another positive is, good customer service. They're rebuildable. They don't take batteries. They're not going to go dead on you. They're not going to be bad when you pull it up to take a shot and it's going to be turned off. They never turn off. The glass is excellent. I mean, it's super bright, super clean. Negatives, they have a shallow eye relief on this particular model and the TA01s. It's only about 1.5 inches. I run a cram spacer from Macedon Defense. I always slaughter that name. Macedon Defense cram spacer, and what it does, it moves the optic back. So it gives you that better eye relief without having to really hunch up on the gun. Once I did a video on that spacer. Excellent spacer, by the way. Money well spent. So that kind of alleviates some of that problem. With this particular model, you get 36 feet field of view at 100 yards. So it's the widest. The TA31s and the TA01s have the widest field of view at 100 yards than any other Trijicon acog, unless you go down in magnification. But even some of those don't match it. You gain eye relief, you lose field of view. So I prefer, my personal preference is to have field of view, where wherever you're shooting, you see wider. So that means 36 feet, you got what, 18 foot on each side of what you're shooting at that you can see while you're down on the gun. So that's incredible field of view. As you go more eye relief in the models, you get less and less. So it's kind of like a tunnel effect. You know, the tunnel starts getting smaller and smaller as you get more and more eye relief on particular models. So that's definitely I would say, as a con, is eye relief. Also, cost is kind of prohibitive for some people. I mean, some people don't want to go out and dump $1,200 on optic. It's a lot of money. You might not even have that in your whole gun setup, you know. So again, that's understandable. You know, it is a high cost. I would say that's a negative. But you know, you are getting quality. It's kind of buy once, cry once. You are getting a lot for your money, but it is expensive. It's not for everybody. Like I said, if you're just having fun with your AR and stuff, you see $1,200, you're like, that's crazy. I'm not going to do it. And some people won't. And that's fine. You know, it's not for everybody. But I just wanted to cover it if you're in the market for, you know, a nice quality optic that basically will last the test of time. You know, and if the Marines can't tear it up, you know, I'm not going to tear it up. You know, just playing with it or whatever, going around, use it for some duty use in classes. It's going to survive forever for me. So that's another one I wanted to cover. Also, I don't have a camera good enough to show you down what it looks like, so I kind of drew a reticle. If you look at a acog, basically this is the mock-up of what's the reticle that's in this TA31. When I talk about a chevron, this is your chevron. It glows red from your fiber optic tube. Your point of aim and point of impact should be right there when you zero it at 100 yards. Really, it should be 0 to 100 meters. I shoot mine yards, but this is set up to shoot meters, so you shoot 100 meters here. And now, if you look at whatever model you buy, if you buy the M4 RCO set up for 62 grain M855 ball through a 14.5 inch barrel, and this is pretty much on point, you know, as far as your drops if you have that gun and set up. So you'd shoot 100 yards here, you'd shoot 200 yards right there, you'd shoot 300 yards right there, and 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. Now, you see I kind of crudely drew these a little wider as they go up. Well, this right here is measured out for you, and what that is, that's a rangefinder, and that should be the width of a grown man's shoulders at that yardage. So if somebody's facing you, you know, target, if you're shooting an 18-inch wide target, if the shoulders fit in here, that's targets at 300 yards. If it fits in here, it's 500 yards. So it's kind of a neat range. Basically, rangefinder is built in the optic. They also make it with the lines, like the crosshair version is the same way. It doesn't have the chevron. You just basically put your crosshairs, which would be your 100 meter zero, and then you go out. So there's a lot of neat stuff built into the reticles, useful stuff. Once you know how to use them, it's really useful to use. Especially, like I said, if you got an 18-inch piece of steel, you can then set that up wherever you want, and you can basically put it out there without a rangefinder and pretty much tell off this probably within 50 yards, you know, where you're at, and make hits on steel. So it's really a neat setup. They definitely did their homework when they made these. They also have the ACSS reticles available in the ACOGs now, which is another great setup. So that's what I wanted to cover on the ACOG. The last optic I wanted to cover, and this is just kind of generalizing, covering different optics as far as red dot, fixed power, and then you got a veritable. So this is a Leupold VXR Patrol, and this is a veritable optic. So this one, they usually say 1 to whatever. This isn't a true one. This one's actually even marked 1.25. I haven't yet seen a true 1 power veritable. There's some that are a lot closer than this. This is 1 1/4, and you can really tell it's 1 1/4. Kind of has a little bit of a fisheye effect as you use both eyes open and you kind of swing over stuff. You can see it, you know, magnified through the optic. This has the fire dot reticle in it. So at 1 power or 1 1/4 power, you can use it just like a red dot, basically. Both eyes open, you come up, and there's a fire dot reticle in here, and there's just like I'd say that's a 1, maybe 1.5 MOA dot that's lit up right in the center. And you can adjust the brightness with the button here on the side, turn it on, turn it off, go up or down in how bright you want the settings. And the awesome thing about this is it's really not covered a lot of places, is battery life on these. This battery will last probably 2 or 3 years, I've heard. I change it out about every year. And after 5 minutes, the reticle shuts itself off. And any movement of the gun or the optic turns it back on. So it's instantly ready. You don't have to do anything. You pick it up, it's ready to go. It turns itself on. And people complain about this being a push button instead of a knob. But really, at the end of the day, once it's set, you don't really have to touch it much. I mean, unless you go from a really sunny outside environment to like an indoor environment, you know. If you set it by your bed or something for home defense, you know, then obviously you probably want it, you know, lower than you would if you're out shooting in a daylight range. But as far as just adjusting brightness, but turn off, turn on, I never turn this optic off. It just always stays on. It goes off, like I said, in 5 minutes by itself. But once it's picked up, it's never not been on when I picked it up. So it's always been good about that. Like I said, then you're 1 1/4 power. You flick this, you can go all the way to 4 power. So now you've kind of combined the two worlds of the aimpoint with, you know, the low power with the dot to the acog, you know, 4 power, you know, with a dot. And it's a good combination. It kind of splits the difference. This is probably the cheapest, or at least when the M3 was new, this is probably the cheapest out of the bunch here. Like I said, this is the VXR Patrol. I looked on Lambo's Armory not too long ago, and they could be had for about 4 1/4 for the optic. Then obviously you got to get a good mount. This particular mount's an ADM Recon mount, and I think these are about 160 bucks. You can go lower and still get a good mount. You know, if you get like a Burris Pepper mount or something with QD attachments or whatever, they're a little heavier. They're kind of bigger made or whatever. But you can pick those up for probably about half that, probably about 80, 85 bucks. So you'd really have roughly $500 in this whole setup if you want with a little cheaper mount. And it's a great optic. The glass is clean on it. The eye box, which you hear people talk about the eye box, that means how forgiving it is when you come down to where all the black goes away. You know, if you don't get that shadowing effect. So, you know, right here is completely clean. I can come up. You know, it's got a good. I can get all the way back out there. So it's got, you know, pretty forgiving eye box. Once you start turning it sideways, you start getting some black in there at the lower setting. And then, like I said, once you crank it up, if you're going to crank it up and make, you know, identification of a target or whatever, it's a good middle road. You know, the positives on it are it's flexible, 1 power, 4 power. You know, they got 1 to 6s now. They got 1 to 8s. Those are all awesome setups. Just, you know, like I said, just watch buying some of the lower end stuff. I would stick with more of a name brand. This one's in mils, so, you know, your clicks, you can zero your caps. So I got this zeroed at 100 yards, and like I said, it's got caps. You can make the adjustments. If I did it over again, I would honestly buy a capped setup, because you're really not cranking a bunch of elevation in here when you're out shooting the AR, because these things will fly pretty flat to 200, 2 1/4. And I don't take them out a lot farther than that, especially at 4 power. You know, they can be done, and it's available there. But even if you had the cap one, you could pull the cap off and put your elevation in, and when you're done, put it back to 0, put the cap on, where it have less chance, you know, just getting bumped around like in the shooting bag or even in the safe when you're pulling guns in and out from getting clicked off 0. I mean, they have the markers and the turrets are all zeroed, so I can just at a glance make sure they're all at 0. But I just think doing it again, I would buy the VXR and not the Patrol model with the exposed caps. But definitely a good choice, guys, on this too. Pros, like I said, it's variable. You can go 1, you can go 4. It's lit reticle. The battery life is awesome. Cons would be it's not as fast at 1 power, or it's not a true 1 power, and it's not as fast as an aimpoint bringing it up. The eye box is a little, or actually a lot less forgiving than the aimpoint is, because it's pretty much parallax free, and it doesn't really black out, you know, anywhere, wherever your head's at. This one, you know, you have to be fairly square with the optic. It does have, you know, a little forgiving eye box, but not nothing like an aimpoint, so that could be a con. You know, your eye box is smaller. Con on this one could be exposed turrets for you. If it's, like I said, if it's a duty gun, you're pulling in and out of a patrol car, or a truck gun. If you got it laying back behind the seat, you could bump these turrets. And if you need it in a hurry and you don't happen to check those, you could be off. So that could be a con. But other than that, durability. I mean, this thing's rough. It's been dropped, kind of sitting next to a bench and fell over. Nothing crazy, but it's never moved. And like I said, that's good optic, good rectors in it, and it's got a great mount that it's in. These 80M mounts are awesome. So just wanted to kind of go over some option, guys. If you, like I said, thinking about an optic, think about what you're going to do with it. That's number one. What's the job of that optic going to be? Number two, you know, what's your budget? You know, how much do you want to spend on an optic? And then three, does that optic going to require a mount that's also going to have to be added into cost? So all things to consider. There's some good choices out there other than these. Obviously, this is just kind of covering non-magnified, fixed magnified, and variable magnified optics, just to kind of represent the group. There's a lot in each group that aren't represented here, obviously, that are great setups. So anyways, guys, I hope this helps. Maybe getting some pros and cons so you can kind of make a decision of what you want to do with your optic and with your rifle, and then go from there. So sorry if it ran long, guys. Like I said, it was a lot to cover. And I appreciate you watching, man. See you guys next time.